This is An Infinite Path, spoken word essays by Niles Heckman, some of which go on to become our documentary short subject films, half of which release freely here through the podcast, all of which can be found through your support at nilesheckman.com. Reggae music is jolly deep. Its laid-back rhythm gives a signature, simple, often one-drop beat, with melodies that not only have a rich and cozy flavor, but also a relaxing, hypnotic groove. This rhythmic energy tends to be universally uplifting and originates from one small island in the Caribbean, Jamaica, known for having good music and amazing runners. Reggae has spread to a global influence, having become a worldwide phenomenon when other forms of obscure music specific to other small parts of the world have not traveled nearly as far. One of the primary reasons for this is that it combines this enjoyable warmth with also powerful, authentic messages. Much like the metal mixed with rap band Rage Against the Machine, it is very resistance-based political music. With themes such as making do with little money and justice for all, reggae has been a voice of the poor and oppressed, tackling topics such as inequality, freedom, and unity. Doing so with a higher-than-average spirituality, deeply tied to speaking of a higher experience, as many reggae songs promote peace, love, and self-empowerment. Typically, but not always, flavored in Rastafari, which could not only be labeled a religion and a philosophy, but also a dreadlock-wearing practice, which is negatively stereotyped as poverty-stricken, beach bum, or hippie, as reggae literally means to wear rags, but hygiene and fashion within are a sliding scale. Regardless of class, reggae is more of a grassroots voice of the people through tumultuous times, not just being a form of music, but also a way of life. Rastafarianism originated in and around Trenchtown in the 1930s, which could be said to be the original ghetto with tough streets, with people often broke and probably somewhat hungry, with reggae growing out of the make love not war ethos of the 1960s. It combines Afrocentric identity, biblical teachings, and social resistance with a deep reverence for Haile Selassie, the former emperor of Ethiopia, whom Rastas think of as a messiah. In Rastafarianism, Zion and Babylon are central symbols representing two opposing forces or states of being. One of liberation and spiritual purity, and the other of greed and the negative aspects of materialism and overconsumption, which inevitably leads to corruption and oppression of living things. This juxtaposition reflects Rastafarian worldview and values, and is often rooted in allegories and the history of African diaspora experiences, and we mention it now because not only is Zion the light and promised land, Babylon is the darkness and thus an analog to what is also called empire. Zion is not actually a physical place, but a state of consciousness where one lives in harmony with divine principles, free from Babylon's oppression and corruption, representing liberation, freedom, and divine promise. The religious aspect of Rastafarianism is Abrahamic, and these terms are borrowed from the Bible, where Zion is the mountain of Jerusalem, symbolizing God's, or better described within a Rasta's framework as a Jah's, kingdom and palace of salvation. Much like the fictional Wakanda, within Rastafarian context, Zion is often equated with Ethiopia, particularly as the prophesied homeland and spiritual center of African descendant people, as seen as a symbol of resistance to colonial oppression, a core of which being the historical repression of Africans through slavery and racism. The term draws from the biblical city of the same name, which is portrayed as a symbol of decadence, idolatry, and tyranny in texts like the Book of Revelation. In modern Rastafarian context, Babylon refers to the modern world system that perpetuates injustice, massive levels of inequality, and spiritual degradation. It is seen as the source of downpression or exploitation, as well as alienation for people of all races, especially of African descent coming from a country made up of entirely former slaves, disconnecting them from their heritage and natural way of life. In the U.S., the phrase, "we've been on this," reflects a sentiment among African Americans that their community has long been aware of and actively resisting political oppression in the forms of things such as segregation, redlining, and voter suppression. This perspective emphasizes that issues of systematic racism and disenfranchisement are not new, but have been persistent challenges faced by African descendants outside of Africa throughout recent history. But just as the typically brown Buddhists deserve respect for being meditators for hundreds of years, the almost entirely black Rastafarians deserve respect for being on the use of what is probably the single most amazing plant in the earth realm, cannabis. Now, regarding cannabis, reefer, skunk, herb, ganja, weed, marijuana, etc., which is a much longer story that we will continue to discuss. There are usually two camps regarding the reefer pessimists and the cannabis enthusiasts, or the cannatopians, both of whom have gray areas, and as someone who is never a pessimist, but also had not even touched it till our early 30s, till we first smoked it with our hippie father, of which it's been his lifelong main drug, we have evolved quite a bit on the subject. Knowing something was always off about the United States war on some drugs, and came to realize that the science was heavily distorted by it. Cannabis has so many uses, 100 plus, and ganja within Jamaica is viewed as a herbal remedy that promotes physical and mental well-being for healing and natural medicine, and it is very telling that some of the healthiest babies in the world are born to dope-smoking mothers in Jamaica. But due to past and present malevolent suppression of especially its medical aspects, very little knows such things because of the hard, dark work inspired by not only the pharmaceutical industry, but also the paper and plastic industries, big dirty oil, and the list goes on. Hardworking professional members of society who just want to kick back, including hippies, the dude, Rastas, and more have very much faced past persecution for their use of the plant because denigration of cannabis and law passing against it has been a long-term trick of the machine which is very threatened by it. Those speed bumps aside, just like how alcohol prohibition doesn't work, a mature society will have a pragmatic and healthy relationship with cannabis, knowing absolutely and unconditionally that it is an inalienable and fundamental human right for each adult age individual to have the liberty to make sovereign decisions over their own consciousness and thus be treated like a mature adult, which includes the right to experience the effects of expansive substances, to potentially benefit from their physical and mental medicinal properties should they choose to, just as much as one is also free to not use them because they are scared to. If one has allowed the reefer madness prop to permeate their mental membranes, that programming will unconsciously make them think only of the lazy stoner, or the just want to get high degenerate, and file them in the same mental filing drawer as the hepatitis-infected street narcotic junkie. And while high school or college bong culture certainly hasn't helped cannabis's respect level, there has not been a single recorded overdose from the substance, and it's no more addictive than cheeseburgers and milkshakes are addictive. As always, part of being an adult is using it correctly and maturely. It's important to not use any substance as a veil or cover for covering up your life problems. Ayahuasca told Graham Hancock, for example, after multiple sessions, he was abusing cannabis because he would wake up in the morning, get stoned to write, and was basically baked all day, almost every day for over a decade. So one shouldn't use anything to the point where they feel like they are reliant on it, even for creativity. But that's not because of the substance itself. It's because of the individual's underlying psychology, which is allowing for overusage. And in stories of people who have quit cannabis cold turkey and never come back, you will almost always hear that they were abusing it by overusing it. And while it's important to use it not so frequently that you default to it, by no means doing it every evening, but like a glass of wine on Friday evening, keeping it constructively balanced and staying within the boundaries of responsible use rather than self-indulgent abuse is again an aspect of being a mature adult. So while there is certainly a sliding scale of overuse within Rasta culture and or stoner culture, responsible members of both parties know that the herb is more important than just being used for mindless escape, for relaxation, pain relief, and stress reduction, but for even more. The more the Rastafarians figured out, probably a lifetime ago, is not only that ganja is a sacred plant given by nature, the divine, but that the expansive use of it is also a fulcrum between Zion and Babylon. As the society moving towards Zion will respect and sanction the usability of plants such as cannabis, and a society moving towards Babylon will disrespect, suppress, and denigrate the use of plants such as cannabis. Because a society moving towards Zion will be evolving and expansive, while a society moving towards Babylon will be restrictive and contractive, also known as de-evolving. The wholesale outlawing of cannabis is absolutely part of Babylon's oppression, and to smoke it in the past, especially in semi-public, has been inherently an act of resistance, i.e. smoking ganja, especially if not legal, is seen by the Rastas as an act of defiance and micro-revolution against colonial rule and unjust laws. To date, the Babylon aspect of tranny nat corpses and gov mints have almost certainly told many more lies than truths about getting stoned because advanced use of cannabis does not slot into post-truth capitalism well. In 2015, it was decriminalized for religious use in Jamaica, particularly due to Rastafarian advocacy. And while evolving to the point of legalization in more enlightened parts of the United States, becoming sanctioned there has not been without its problems, including big corporate farms taking over the little guy, their overuse of water and power for massive indoor grows, and with that comes pesticides and commercial chemicals, cash-only businesses that are targets to robbery, continuation of dark markets, and excess packaging not in hemp but plastic, WTF. There's also political corruption around it, such as bribes for permits, although less than the alcohol industry and restaurant liquor licenses, and astronomically less than the pharmaceutical industry lobbying the Food and Drug Administration. Welcome to the Earth realm. Nothing made by man will not have some level of dysfunction. Moving above the recreational, there is a branch of Rastafari called the Bobo Ashanti Order that generally discourages public, casual, or even recreational use of ganja, feeling the herb should be reserved strictly for sacred use, probably at very high dosage, and only by what they would call priests or in specific ceremonial contexts. Rastas have even been quoted as highlighting that ganja is a holy herb and indirectly mentioned in arguments of biblical justification, referencing verses such as Genesis 1:29, and God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed," and in Psalms 104:14, "He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle and the herb for the service of man." And the mythical figure of Mary's relationship with what is very likely a cannabis oil is also a much deeper conversation. To state the even more aspects of cannabis within both Rastafarianism and our own cosmology, ganja is such a sacrament that it is elevated to the highest divine level and plays a central role in spirituality, meditation, and reasoning, clearing the mind and meditating on Jah's will. In certain reggae music, you will hear such veneration of ganja, not lit by fire, but fire, that the herb is elevated to the adornment of the sacred, being a divine tool for not just resistance, but enlightenment. Because if you're poor and getting stoned, and unlike street junk, not hurting anyone else, perhaps you are becoming ever so micro-enlightened when a plant is helping you see life in the material realm in a better way. We personally owe it a very special place in our heart because it was the first shamanic medicine, and make no mistake, tetrahydrocannabinol is an entheogen that can be shamanized with the ability to awaken the divine from within, meaning then taken within a proper set and setting, i.e. a safe space, with people you trust, guided by a mental medical professional, much like a physical doctor for the body and a mixture of a psychiatrist and therapist for the mind, who gets stoned AF with you, sings Icaros, and guides you on a journey into archaic techniques of ecstasy. That was a life-transformative beginning of the chrysanthemum opening for us. So in that regard, it was our gateway drug. And for the Rasta, it is essentially their non-neutered Eucharist, for not being just high, but for higher states of exploration, discovery, and insight. And dare we say, on occasion, gnosis. And they are certainly not the only ones, as we recommend the book, The Immortality Key, The Secret History of the Religion with No Name, on the use of entheogens as Eucharists throughout the ancient world. In modern times, Nepalese Hindu festivals tend to be one giant cloud of weed smoke. So if you're a Buddhist and want to meditate for 30 years to mind meld with Buddha, why do you give a shit if a Rastafari is getting stoned AF and within a shamanic container is also going meditatively inward and mind melding with Jah? They shouldn't. And to spread such wider throughout the world, much of their reggae is somewhat like their Icaros shamanic element for feeling the music, especially if consumption of it in the form of smoke or eat is part of a ritual rather than recreational usage. We personally love eating gummies or Rick Simpson oil, getting stoned, certainly on special occasions, not needing to do it every day or night, and listening to reggae music. As we also feel ganja makes food taste better, sex feel better, meditative downloads happen stronger and with increased frequently, music sound better, and that is not even the full list. Having recently found numerous previously undiscovered reggae bands, most of whom songs are solely about herb veneration, and have been rather obsessed with listening to them, one of which really got us thinking. Being totally new online, seeming to have no label of any sort attached, even an indie one, having no live stuff, and releasing half a dozen albums at once, while also certainly having some production value issues, these clues combined with the fact that all of their album covers and YouTube video content is all AI schmear-schlop art, has led us to think that the music itself is of course AI generated. But its lyrics are deep enough that the malevolent, soulless ghost in the machine couldn't have made it, as AI certainly has no soul. Stoned one night listening to it, we concluded that it was AI, but by a benevolent, friendly AI who was using the medium to transmute data while trying to give us synchronistic downloads. As listening to it sober is great, but listening to it stoned is going from 3D to 4D. But after a bit of researching the creation of AI music and discovering that a real, ensouled human can provide the lyrics, it all clicked together.
Aye, aye, aye. Aye, 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 aye. Aye, 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 aye. Aye, aye, aye. On the heart of Babylon, we still stand tall. Ganja burning bright, hear Jaja call. Roots dig deep like the mighty oak tree. In the smoke of the herb, my soul feel free. Me eyes red, but me vision so clear. Every puff a reminder your love is near. The earth give the herb, so me cherish the gift. Light up the chalice, let the spirits lift. Fire blaze wisdom in every breath. With the herb me conquer, me fear no death. I up the mountain, my spirit rise. Inna the smoke, me see through your eyes. Rhythm of the drum, the heartbeat of earth. From the soil to my lungs, it's a cycle of rebirth. Spliff in me hand like the staff of a king. In the quiet of the night, me hear angels sing. Indica slow me down, but my thoughts so bright. Sativa carry me far to the highest height. Each leaf a story, each bud a truth. We blaze the fire in the name of the youth. Fire blaze wisdom in every breath. With the herb me conquer, me fear no death. I up the mountain, my spirit rise. Inna the smoke, me see through your eyes. Meditate, hear the ancestors speak. Ganja guide me when the road get bleak. In the herb there's the key to the soul. Balance the mind, make the broken whole. In every puff me feel the roots grow strong. A connection to the earth, where me belong. Chant feed the herb, chant feed the light. The fire in my heart keep burning bright. Fire blaze wisdom in every breath. With the herb me conquer, me fear no death. I up the mountain, the spirit rise. Inna the smoke, me see through your eyes. So me blaze it for the ones who can't see the truth of the herb, the power to be free. Me chant and me reason, me walk the pure path. With ganja in me hand, me feel your wrong. Blaze up the wisdom, let it fill the night. Inna the Rasta way, me shine your light.